Before we begin, make sure you have today's workbook opened up from Teams, that you've saved a copy of it, and you have completed and marked your HIR. In today's lesson, we are going to be looking at identifying dotted rhythm values and explaining compound time signatures, building on our work from last week. This video is about identifying dotted rhythm values. So, what is a dotted rhythm? A dot adds half a note's value back onto it. So, here we have a dotted minim. We start by remembering how long a minim lasts for. It lasts for 2 beats. Then we work out what half of that note would be. Half a minim equals 1 beat. We then add the two together. 2 plus 1 equals 3. So we know a dotted minim equals 3 beats. We can apply this process to any note that has a dot on it. For example, here is a dotted crotchet. A crotchet is worth 1 beat. Half a crotchet would therefore be worth half a beat. 1 plus a half equals 1.5 beats. So a dotted crotchet lasts for 1.5 beats. But in music, we like to have whole numbers when we're talking about rhythms. So when you see a dotted crotchet, we tend to combine it with a quaver. The reason being that a dotted crotchet is worth 1.5 beats, while a quaver is worth half a beat, and 1.5 plus a half gives us 2 whole beats, which is nice and neat. But it's a little bit difficult to explain this with words, so here are some examples. Let's listen to this first rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice, because this lasts for 1.5 beats, we skip over the 2, and this quaver comes in between the 2 and the 3. Let's listen again. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, but what happens if we're doing some faster rhythms? Well, the same principle still applies. These 2 semiquavers add up to 1 quaver. So they still come in between the 2 and the 3, just like this quaver did, but now we're going to play a faster rhythm, like this. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Listen again. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now let's test your knowledge. How many beats does this rhythm add up to? So let's go through this. Here we have a dotted crotchet. This lasts for 1.5 beats. Here we have a quaver, which is worth half. So 1.5 plus a half gives us 2 whole beats. This is the same, so we know that this must also add up to 2 whole beats. And at the end we have a dotted minim, which is worth 3. So we're going to end up with 2 plus 2 plus 3, which is 7. So that's dotted minims and dotted crotchets, but what do we do with even faster rhythms? What do we do with a dotted quaver? How long does a dotted quaver last for? Have a think. So a quaver on its own lasts for half a beat. Half of that would therefore be a quarter of a beat. So we add a half to a quarter, which gives us 3 quarters. So a dotted quaver lasts for 3/4 of a beat. Now again, in music, we like to have whole numbers. Being able to remember exactly how long 3/4 of a beat is would be really, really tricky. So we combine it with semiquaver. This is because a dotted quaver is worth 3/4, and a semiquaver is worth 1/4, and 3/4 plus 1/4 equals 1 whole beat. So what does it sound like? Let's listen to this first rhythm in 2/4. 1, 2, 1, 2. Notice how this was a little bit longer than a quaver, and this note came in just before the beat. Let's listen again. 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, but what does it sound like when we combine it with a dotted crotchet? Let's look at this second rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Let's listen again. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's do some practice exercises. How many beats does this rhythm add up to? So this rhythm starts off with a dotted minim, which we know lasts for 3 beats. Over here, we have a dotted quaver plus a semiquaver, joined together because they equal 1 beat in total. So we know that this altogether is 1 beat. Over here, we have a dotted crotchet, which is worth 1.5 beats, followed by a quaver, which is worth 1/2. So together, this is going to give us 2 beats. So we have 3 plus 1, which is 4, plus 2, which gives us 6. 6 beats. Remember our cheat from last week? If 2 notes are joined together, they equal 1 beat. Here, we're indicating that it's a dotted quaver followed by a semiquaver, but it's adding a dot to the first note and adding a small extra line to the second to make it clear that that is a semiquaver. Okay, what time signature would fit this 1 bar of music? So the first thing we need to do is work out how many beats this bar lasts for. So we have 1.5 plus 1/2 here. Altogether, this gives us 2. And then we know, because they're joined together, this equals 1. So we have 2 plus 1. So there are 3 crotchets in this bar. 3 crotchets means our time signature would have to be 3/4, which means 3 crotchets in each bar. And finally, a listening exercise, identifying which of these rhythms is played. Before I play the rhythm, take 15 seconds to look through the rhythms yourself and remind yourself what they will sound like. Okay, let's go through this. You're about to hear it for the first time. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, thinking about which one it is. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And once more, without the counting. 1, 2, 3, 4. Have a think. The answer is C. 1, 2, 3, 4. B would sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that brings us to the end of dotted rhythms. Turn to activity 1 in your workbook for more guidance and practice, or if you have the extension activity, stick around for the extension. So, because this is music, obviously this is going to create other problems. And here is the problem. Let's say we wanted to play this rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It lasts for an even 2 bars, and it is in 4/4, but we have to put a bar line here, and that's super unclear for 2 reasons. 1, it means that on this side we've got more than 4 beats, and on this side we've got less than 4 beats, and it makes it really unclear that this note needs to be lasting into the second bar to join up with this quaver. So it's really unclear, but there's nowhere else we could put it. If we put it over here, then none of the bars would add up properly, and if we put it over here, same problem. We end up with 3 beats over here and 5 beats over here. So how can we indicate that this note needs to last over the bar line? We do that with something called a tie. we can join two notes together with a curved line to create one note that combines their lengths. So a dotted crotchet lasts for 1.5 beats. We could also show that our note lasts for 1.5 beats by drawing a crotchet and a quaver and a curved line joining the two together. This note down here would only be one note. We wouldn't play the second. It just tells us we're adding the two together to get our one note length. The advantage of pied notes is we can draw these curved lines over bar lines. So the rhythm we were looking at earlier would look like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. We don't play this second note, but because it's there, we can clearly see that this note is supposed to last into the second bar. Pied notes can actually be used in any point in the bar, and we can tie any two notes together to get any length of note we want. But most commonly, they are used over bar lines to make it really clear that the note at the end of our first bar is lasting into our second bar. So, with that in mind, take a look at the extension to Activity 1.